And I want to welcome everybody to session 6 of Karat Bars. And tonight we're going to cover off on a couple of things. First of all, we're going to talk about taxes. And then we're actually going to role play a little bit later. So we're going to have some fun here. Now, the interesting thing about this week and next week is that this is something that Karat Bars International really doesn't cover because they're in over 120 different countries. So really, it's almost impossible for them to be able to offer something like this. So what I'm doing here and what we're doing here tonight as a group is we're actually going to focus on Canada and the United States, and we're going to be able to just have a generic discussion about what it is in order to be in business in Karat Bars in North America. So in Canada and the United States, there are two main different ways that you can get into Karat Bars as a business. The first way is you can come in as an individual, and that is probably the most common way of which a Karat Bars member will join. But also, I don't know if you guys knew this, but did you know that you can actually have a corporation or an LLC actually join with Karat Bars as well, where you are listed as a director. So this is actually a very interesting way. So we're going to cover these two things just very, very briefly tonight. And then we're also going to deal with how does fiat currency get taxed and how does hard currency get taxed. So that's what we're going to cover these things just as a general overview. I don't want to go into too much detail except for the fact that yes, when we gain revenue, the government's going to have their hand out and they're going to say, we would like some of your tax money, please. Okay? So, without further ado, so here again, like I said, there's one way that you can join as an individual, and that is actually called a proprietorship. So when you join as an individual, you're actually a proprietorship. You're not incorporated, you just stand alone as an individual. And with Karat Bars also being home base for the most part, that you just be able to do your business right out of your home. So I also want to cover off one more important thing, that you need to realize that the government, whether it is the Internal Revenue Service or IRS in the United States or the Canada Revenue Agency or the CRA in Canada, they're actually going to view you as an actual business. So if they're going to actually view you as an actual business, we might as well get serious and start acting like one. And this is why I feel it's so important to be aware that if you're going to run this as a business, I want you to be aware that the government is going to have their hand out and they say you're going to get taxed on it. So let's cover off the proprietorship first. Well, first of all, reporting your business and applicable taxes as a proprietorship will most likely be the method you will personally choose when joining Karat Bars. Now, this is also by far the easiest way for you to join. And there's no really complicated filings. And also here in Canada, and I believe in the United States as well, that you actually file the business portion of your Karat Bars business on your personal tax return. Also, just keep in mind that when you are in Karat Bars, in the fiat currency area, when you do get your commissions paid, you're paid in euros. So what you need to do is you need to actually convert it from euros to the US dollar when you're filing it for our American Karat Bars members. And in Canada, you have to report it into Canadian dollars. So keep in mind, please, that you need to convert your commissions back into the dollar of which your country has as its legal currency. Also, just as again another tidbit of information, but I will cover this much more in detail next week, that Karat Bars is eligible to have, you're allowed to have business expenses. And I will cover that more in detail next week. So just keep in mind, when you gain revenues, that you're allowed to have expenses to lower your taxable income. And that's both valid in Canada and the United States. Also, remember that when you are paying taxes, that here in Canada, that you need to pay attention that you're not only going to be paying federal tax when your income exceeds a certain income threshold, but you also have to pay provincial income tax from the 10 provinces and the 3 territories. And in Quebec, for our Quebec Karatbars members, that you also have to file a separate provincial return when you are filing your annual return for your personal taxes. In the United States, I believe it's called a W-4 or a 1040. I'm not sure which one it is, but when you're filing your return, you also keep in mind to whatever the regulations are, both at federal, state, county, and municipal levels. So just keep in mind to where you are specifically, depending on what province you are in Canada or what state you are in the United States or territory in both Canada and the United States, just to pay close attention to your tax regime and that you pay according to the regulations that are laid out in your geographical area. Now, here's another cool thing. In Canada and the United States, you're actually allowed to have and incur a business loss in Karatbars. And how that happens is, let's say you join Karatbars, you buy a package, you go and take people out for coffee, you drive your car, and you incur some expenses, and all of a but you didn't really, for some reason, didn't get quite the traction that you wanted, and all of a sudden your income was less than your expenses. So your expenses incurred what we call a non-capital loss. And so when we have a non-capital loss incurred, and if you have no other revenue here in Canada to offset that, then those losses can actually carry forward up to 10 years into the future. So again, in the United States, similar laws are applicable, and again, you're able to use your business loss to lower your taxable income, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to carry it forward, but I would check with the IRS on those regulations if you are watching this video. Finally, and one thing I want to touch on is that as a home-based business, and mainly as a home-based business in Canada, and I'm going to speak only to our Canadian side right now, the important thing is that the CRA generally allows you to carry losses in a home-based business for up to 3 years. And then after that, if you perpetuate losses, they're saying, well, we're going to deem your activity as a hobby, and they will then disallow the eligible business activity, and you will not be able to report losses. So really what the idea is to turn a profit, and the government says, thank you very much, now you're going to pay taxes on that. So that's the idea, and that's why the government will allow that. So please keep that in mind as well. So now just switching gears a little bit, what we want to focus now on is corporations. As I said at the beginning of our session, that a corporation is actually allowed to join Karatbars, and in Canada they're just called corporations. In the United States, you can get a limited liability corporation or LLC, or you can actually get a corporation, and they have different kinds of corporations and different structures. So again, please check with your local area or accountant to find out exactly what you can do. But I do know that as a Karatbars member, corporations are allowed to join Karatbars. Now you ask yourself, why would I want to be a corporation joining Karatbars? Well, part of the reason is because if you are intending to make this a major portion of building your wealth, then, especially in the area of fiat currency and even accumulating gold, actually the corporation will own the gold, and they'll also govern the business activity. Now, quite often corporations, at least especially here in Canada, corporations actually carry a more favorable tax rate than the personal tax rates. So really that's one advantage, especially for some of our Karatbars members that are earning more than 6 figures a year. Then of course having a corporation would certainly be able to help them govern how they can get taxed by the government. Another advantage is that you can actually become an employee of a corporation in Canada. And again, please check on the US side as to what regulations you have and what you're entitled to in terms of tax structure for you as a director. So I'm just going to stick here with the Canadian side mainly, and that now you can put yourself on payroll, you could pay yourself dividends, or you can pay yourself management fees. So there's really different things that you can do inside a corporation. So this is one of the beauties of having a corporation and being a Karatbars member as a corporation. You'll be able to operate under that structure, and then you can pay yourself differently than you would had the commissions come to you directly as an individual. So just another tidbit of information about that. In the province of Alberta and in the province of Quebec, you have to file a separate provincial corporate tax return. So again, there's different filing requirements. So you have your federal filing requirement, and then you have your provincial filing requirement. Oh, and another advantage of a corporation here in Canada is that you can set your fiscal year-end date to any day of the year. Yeah, okay. Whereas a proprietorship is automatically set to December 31st. So again, just as some of the differences of being a Karatbars member, where it might look a little bit different if you joined as a corporation. I have a corporation, I own a corporation, and I actually did consider it when joining Karatbars, but because I decided that I wanted to kind of be arm's length from the corporation to the Karatbars membership, I decided to actually just join as an individual. So that's mainly dealing with when you get commissions and dealing with the fiat currency side of Karatbars. So Karatbars, we both know, and we all agree, that Karatbars pays you in two ways. The first way is they'll give you commissions, and that's not the primary way, because their favorite way of giving you is what, there, Travis? How do they want to pay you?
In gold.
In gold. Mm-hmm. That's right. They want to pay you in gold. But the thing is that you need to realize that gold is still taxable. Okay? So really in the end, we need to realize that gold is taxable when you dispose of it. Okay? So if we go to a K exchange place and we dispose of the gold, then we actually have to convert that back to fiat currency and actually pay something what we call capital gains or capital losses. Now, what capital gains are, they are when you buy gold at, say, and I'm going to use Canadian dollars now, at $65 a gram, and then you turn around and you sell it at $70 a gram. So then what has happened is that you've disposed of what we call a commodity, which is actually treated similarly as shares in the company. And so then you have to actually pay a capital gain on the disposition of the gold. So if you bought it at $65 and you sold it at $70, what is the difference on that, Jody?
$5.
$5. So now you have to pay a capital gain on $5. Now, you are allowed eligible expenses for your disposition. So if you incurred anything like any fees transfer fees or anything like that that pertain to the disposition of the gold, then you can actually use that to reduce the taxable capital gains on the disposition of the gold. Now, here's another cool thing, is that capital gains is treated a little bit differently and far more favorable than the business income that you derive from your Karatbars business. So let me explain that a bit. Every Canadian, as of 2014, has what we call a lifetime capital gains exemption of $375,000. So that means the first $375,000 of capital gains, you only have to pay on what we call the half amount of the capital gain. So Jody, if you had a $5 capital gain, what would be taxed on if it was called a half amount of the income? Well, how much would it be taxed on?
$2.50.
$2.50. That's far more favorable than being taxed on the $5. Now, if we ended up disposing of 100 grams of gold and we were buying it all at $65 and selling it at $70, that $5 now becomes $500 in capital gains, but you'll get taxed on $250. So this is the main areas of which I wanted to cover, so that you understood as Karatbars members that you are subject to taxes, number one. Number two, yes, you are a business and the government will recognize you as such. So we might as well get serious and start running it like a business. And third, that we're also subject to taxes on fiat currency and hard currency. So it's very, very important as Karatbars members to understand these things. So that's the reason why we have this session. And again, like I said, next week, we're going to cover in more detail eligible business expenses so that you can understand what you're entitled to in terms of these expenses. So that leaves me for my final thought, and that's our this week's successful thinking tip. And this week's successful thinking tip don't love your business. Don't love your business. Now, why would I say something like that? Because that kind of sounds odd if you really look at it. So before I start teaching why, I just like to invite our group here to have a little discussion on that. So why would I want to say something like, don't love your business? Anybody?
Because then it'll be the be-all, end-all of everything.
It has the potential of becoming the be-all, end-all of everything. And therefore, it could actually start governing your life in ways that you never thought it would or should. So, if you end up loving your business too much, there's nothing wrong with loving your business to the point of caring for it. Having due diligence, and enjoying your time, because that's what Karatbars is all about. Travis, before you started, in our opening remarks, you said, we want to focus on Karatbars being fun, and that is important. Karatbars is meant to be fun because it's great for socializing. It's an opportunity to share about something very important and very dear to us because we're talking about an important aspect of taking fiat currency and converting it to hard currency. So we're also looking at a great business opportunity for you to have an opportunity to build wealth. These are important things, and I'm not mitigating those. But if you end up loving your business too much, it could affect you in different ways. Number one, loving your business far too much and focusing on it could lead to actually poor business decisions. It can affect your relationships with others. In other words, if someone comes in and they're so focused on Karat bars and you're so excited, well, it's nothing wrong with being so excited, but to the point where you are actually turning people off, or it could lead you into fabricating information that really doesn't exist. This team is, if I could say it, bent on doing everything exactly as Karat Bars has designed it to be, so that we're following every protocol that Karat Bars has laid out, so that we can help our team achieve the greatest amount of success without compromising the ethical standards that Karat Bars has set out. So we are uncompromising. And so really when someone comes along and I share with them Karat Bars, and I'm pretty forward with them and I'm usually pretty excited with them, and if they say no, I'll say, okay, I'll tell you what, how about if I tell you just down the road how well I'm doing? I have been getting responses, well, how's Karat Bars going? I said, I'm actually in the middle of teaching a seminar series on it. You're right into this. Yeah, I am. So really, you can have a healthy engagement with people without turning them off. Or the other thing is that don't make promises that you can't keep. In other words, if our videos teach that you have the potential of earning $34,000 a week, which is in theory very true, because the way that Karat Bars is structured, you can gain commissions down to infinity on your left and right legs. So in theory, that is true. But when if you're really so loving your business so much, or you're so attached to your business that you say, we're going to guarantee you $34,000 a week, that's now a fabrication. So really what we're trying to teach is balance, okay? Which actually leads me right into my second point. When building your business, really what we're focusing on is looking at systems, not the business itself. Okay, so when you don't love your business, you get to look at the system, and when you follow the systems, then you're going to have a greater chance of success, because the system has been laid out well for you. So don't love the business, but engage in the system. Because when you engage in the system, you're going to maximize your opportunities. Now, if you take a look at some of the major food chains, I'm pretty sure that people could agree with me that some of them don't make the best food. But what makes them successful is that they have the best systems. And Karat Bars has one of the best systems that I have ever seen. And I will vouch for this system, and that's the reason why I am a proud Karat Bar member. Do I love my business? I love engaging in the business. I love the system, but I don't love any of my businesses. Which means that if I need to walk away from them, I can. But right now, Carrot Bars is offering everybody here in this room, including myself, a great opportunity. And this is the reason why I've been so dedicated for doing these seminar series with Travis Stewart. Because it's very, very important that we work together and to grow our teams as interdependently, not independently, but interdependently. And that's very, very important. And that's part of the system. The Carrot Bars is designed for interdependence. So when you're in this business, love the people, not the entity itself. So I'm Mike May for Carrot Bars, and I'll see you guys next week. But before you give me your clap, we're also going to do some role playing. And so this segment also will cover role play today, so you guys enjoy that too. Have a good night.